Potential. We all know what that means. Someone who has the tools to do a thing. Now, that thing does not have to be particularly great or small. Normally, however, when we think of potential, we think of the potential to do great things. The other side of this equation is something that is not as often considered. And this is why so much potential gets absolutely wasted. The other side of this is sacrifice. No matter how much potential someone has, without them being willing to make the sacrifice to actually refine a craft or trade, etc., that potential will kind of be squandered, but it will kind of never be fully had. Though potential refers to something in the future, it is an idea that you have that thing now, but that is not the case. Even someone who is born to be 7'3". Well, yeah, you've got the potential to be in the NBA, play professional basketball, etc., whatever, or be a professional wrestler, whatever you wish. You're never going to get there without putting in the work to do a thing. So potential is really sort of just a scaffolding that people have to populate with the rungs themselves. Welcome to Strip Coverlet, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for another poetry discussion, which will appear in two different playlists here on the channel. Number one being the poetry discussion playlist, which is now approaching 800 videos strong. Number two is the Dark Academia playlist, which is a playlist dedicated to those principles of the aesthetic of dark academia. And yes, this poem does fall into that purview. The poem in question is Sonnet VII on his being arrived to the age of 23 by John Milton, and it reads as such. How soon hath time, the subtle thief of joy, stolen on his wing my 23 year. My hasting days fly on with full career, but my late spring no bud or blossom showeth. Perhaps my semblance might deceive the truth, that I to manhood am arrived so near, and inward ripeness doth much less appear, that some more timely happy spirits indueth. Yet it be less or more, or soon or slow, it shall be in strictest measure even to that same lot, however mean or high, toward which time leads me, and the will of heaven all is, if I have grace to use it so, as ever in my great taskmaster's eye. So, kind of a poem saying, I do have this potential. I do have to make the sacrifice. And if I do make the sacrifice, I believe that it is God's will that I will do the thing that I am put here to do. Why do I bring this poem into the discussion of dark academia? I have said several times now that I believe what dark academia is or represents or what it is used for is a retreat, a cocooning of sorts, to dedicate the self to academia, to learning, to perhaps literature, perhaps writing, whatever the case may be. It is a sacrifice that one is making. So the stories, the two stories that I say are on this path are such. Someone is going about life and realizes that they are not who they want to be. They are not what they would like to be. And so they decide to endure this turn in their life of quote-unquote dark academia, to retreat, to disappear, to dedicate oneself to academia. Whatever stripe, I don't care. Science, or it's literature, or it's math, maybe it's all things. In the traditional term, and I think why this is, in the traditional world, what this is going to college, right? We don't all get to go to college. We don't certainly all get to go to college on the time frame that we are quote unquote supposed to go to college. This does not mean we do not get to pursue. I think this is why the aesthetic of dark academia has so much to do with like boarding school attire, things like that. That it does represent that retreat from the world and dedication towards something the same way that college does. College, however, in large part has become not a sacrifice but an indulgence. Oh, you go hang out, get drunk, go to parties, etc. It is not what it once was, or at least was assumed to be. This poem is really marking off a delineation here. It is saying there is a sacrifice to be made. Without the sacrifice, whatever it is that God has for you will not be seen through. To get back to what I was saying, the two sort of paths are someone retreats to dark academia in order to improve the self, goes through a transformation, and then emerges. And who knows, maybe there are more dark academic turns in the future. The other path is darker. The other path is someone turns towards academia, towards this binging of academic pursuits, this binging of intelligentsia, this binging of learning, pursuing. It never comes out. And there's a fine line somewhere that is not recrossable. There's a seed somewhere you can't unplant. This is the mad scientist, right? This poem, I think, in many ways is giving over to that idea, to that second possibility, the possibility of becoming the mad scientist, of becoming the lost academic, of becoming the one who has sacrificed himself to the pursuit of. The invocation of the taskmaster, the invocation of the one from whom we receive, the one on high from whom we receive these marching orders, the invocation of some grander plan or some plan of grandeur, I think lends itself more readily to that second outcome, the outcome of the mad scientist, the outcome of the lost academic. I think that it lends itself in that way because it says, I am unbridled. It says, I will be informed where that unplantable seed lies. And I don't think you will. I don't think anyone ever is. I think the people who become the lost academic, the people who become the mad scientist, they have no idea they are. I think they have no idea they are. If you are someone who has to, if you're someone who has to ask if you're crazy, you're not crazy, right? So I think in many ways, what is going on in this poem is saying, hey, I'm ready to be the mad scientist. I am capable of being the lost academic. I can sacrifice the entirety of the self for the pursuit, for the end goal. I can sacrifice the entirety of me for the art, for the literature, for the scientific breakthrough, whatever that endeavor is. And maybe that's dangerous. Or maybe that is the only way that some people can find fulfillment in their life, right? I think that is something worth a question worth asking, right? What is the good life? And if you are considering yourself someone of this dereliction, Is the good life not simply the thing? Not life, but the thing. The literature, the art, the science, whatever it is. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. There are 2 playlists and a video on your screen right now that YouTube thinks you will enjoy. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.